Alright, so Shalom, first and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, and glory to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak, Wadash, double honors be to the apostles and others at great millstone who rule well and have taught us this 100% truth. Much peace and blessings be unto you, whole full. You like that to push out this word of thought, truth, and sincerity. To all you Akim, I do say Shalom. I'm the Akio, where I'm coming in with a quick little lesson, going into a little mini astronomy lesson, right? Going into the sky, right? I don't got my books with me right now, my swords with me, but I'll be going off the top of my head. I will read this short piece published in the 70s by Edmund Scientifics, and it's entitled Edmund Mag 5-Star Atlas, which, for a bit of extrapolation, that word mag is short for magnitude, and magnitude is basically a brightness system based on the stars. So even you could see how that one right there, the focus got lost, the flip. That one right there seems brighter compared to all these other ones. This one seems brighter to this one, which appears faint. That's a bit of jargon, magnitudes, which is basically a brightness system. The brighter ones go from like 0 to negative, so whereas positive magnitudes are the fainter ones, which can only be seen on steady night skies. And I got my this is beginners with Celestron Star Sense telescope, which certain family members have mentioned. It looks pro. Well, just imagine your surprise to find out it's actually a cheap one. Around it was a used too, $400, but it was refurbished from the actual company. And tax and shipping fees, whatever you call it, $447, I think, give or take. I think it was $447, which is spiritual numbers as well. But going back to the Genesis 1 video published by the elder Apostle Tahar, this astronomy, looking up at the stars, it does what he says, or let me rephrase that. Astronomy to an extent agrees with what the other Apostle Tahar teaches about the Earth being a globe, and I say to an extent because Esau Edom's a goddamn liar, right? What's it called? He speaks lies. Right, going back to Revelation 20th chapter, makes a mention how he shall be loose to deceive the nations, and that's been done. Right, he deceives the people, visually. Even people have been talking about his Project Bluebeam, and he does have these capabilities, right? People theorize he's around 50 years ahead, or his technology is about 50 years ahead of what we have commercialized in the mainstream. I mean, yeah, flying cars now, but if we have flying cars, just imagine the technology he has behind the scenes with institutes like DARPA, right? Department of Defense Department of War, which that's Trump's thing when he renamed it as such. And Department of War is not to be conflated nor confused with the Department of War from the Army from back in the 40s or whatever. Or I think it got retired back in 45. That's a bit of backdrop. You could Google it. Right, so he's a liar, and he lied about so-called cosmology. He was talking about how it's like a history. Astronomy is like a history because of the fact that you get supposed radio waves from like millions of years ago. Well, another thing, we know time at the second Ezra makes to mention how the Earth ain't even 13,000 years old. It's more like 12K years old and some change, right? With the 12th part, and the apostles go in depth on where we are at that time. We're what's it called, that final mark, And, the end of this age referring to the rulership of the heathen, starting out with Esau, Edom, so-called white men really red, because, well, see, even not about that, he talking about how he's white. Well, what's it called? Just because you're pale, don't do it with the fact that you're really red. As a matter of fact, being pale is what makes you red, because your blood is more visible. Just basic science. What's it called? I lost my train of thought. Right, they be talking about how radio waves apparently from like billions of years ago popping up every day on the scene, and that supposedly the theory goes that if you view Earth from the Andromeda galaxy, you're looking at Earth from like the time of the dinosaur age. We know dinosaurs existed and they coexisted with humanity, but they're hidden, as the other apostle Orion Blob went into, and they'll pop out in the kingdom later, because other scriptures go on to how, what's it called, when the Lord creates something, he doesn't do it away. I mean, he will do away Esau, Edom, but I forget that one priest. I think it was in Proverbs or Ecclesiastes. He's going to how the creation, his creation abounds. That being the dinosaurs, which even then with Esau's destruction, I remember the other apostle Gabar made an OG lesson going into how he'll wipe out that line Esau, Edom, and they'll reincarnate to the heathen. But then you got later videos where the apostles go into that may not be the case. But then again, they always make the mention we may not know, so we'll have to wait and see. So either they'll be reborn, reincarnate to the other heathen nations, or they'll literally cease to exist. We'll see. But as for the dinosaurs, they're really hidden. They're still here. But that theory of that, what's it called, distance, is the distance you see a certain object, celestial pertain to the heavens, right? As a matter of fact, everything within this realm, if you will, this space, it's called the first heaven. It's within the firmament. The first heaven it's within the firmament. Firmament being the ozone layer, right? Atmosphere. Outside of the atmosphere, you got the second heaven, which is outer space, and then you got the third heaven, which is a spirit realm. Which the apostle Paul went into the third heaven, right? They're saying some far-fetched idea, more so as it's proven, it's factual. Esau's offering empirical evidence. Well, you want empirical evidence, data's right there. It's written on the scene. What's it called? Apostle Paul went into how I knew a man about 13 years ago who went up to the third heaven. Well, really, that man, he's talking about himself. He's speaking to himself in the third person, which is not strange. People be like, oh, that's strange. Mofo, you watch movies, videos, and even yourself be out here, what's it called, speaking about yourself in third person. It's not what's it called, that hard to understand, to grasp. Right? We're all human. Right? Just like how that precept goes into how there is no temptation that overtaking you, but such as is common to man. Well, same thing with these thoughts, but such as is common to man. Right? So we all do the same actions. So speaking to himself in the third person, talking about the spirit realm, right? Because he fell, hit his head, horseback, died. Literally, he died and came back to the spirit. He came back to this realm, from the spirit realm to here. And then he died, and he got beheaded on, command by Nero, which we know is the previous incarnation of, the king himself. It's called Trumpet Man. Which, same thing with the Apostle Paul. He did reincarnate, and we believe that on this side he is the other Apostle Tahar. Literally, you read the scriptures and you can kind of see what's it called. You see the parallels. What's it called? Lost my train. This my train. I remember now. Right. So, and apparently, what's it called? This is history. That star could be like different or whatever. Blah blah. That's not true. So that's an example of a lie that he be spewing. Right. As a matter of fact, reading this book, Mac 5-Star Atlas, it does go into lies. That's the mainstream. Stuff brought to you by Edomites from the scientific revolution, which the major innovators of the scientific revolution. I think it was called. Correct me if I'm wrong. It sort of coincided with that of with the Renaissance, but post that as well. I think up to like the 17th or 18th century, and even now, in these past 300 years, I think, you had major innovations within the astro world. Astro world meaning not to conflate it with that of Travis Scott's album. I'm talking about the world of astronomy. As the elder Apostle Gabar always clarifies, in that word world, and there are three Greek words for that word world in the New Testament. What's it called? Cosmos, I think Aeon as well, and Aripidemos? No, not Aripidemos, I'm confusing it. You got three words though, and Cosmos, right? Aeon, I forget the other one. They all have their own meanings. One referring to, what's it called? Physical world. One referring to an order. One referring to a period of time. Well, I'm talking about the one they're referring to an order, a subset, classification of things. Like you got your deck of cards, you got your various collectibles, you got what's it called, Pokemon cards, you got your baseball cards, so on and so forth. Think of that like an order. And group, special groups. You hear what's it called, the world of sports. Well, that's its own group, referring to sports teams, commentators, right, fans, so on and so forth. Well, the world of astronomy, that being, what's it called, at the IAU, I think it's pronounced, the ones that look at the stars, NASA, SpaceX, Blue Origin. You could all, allocate those to the astronomy world. Amateur astronomers. You would, that's what I'm referred to, right? You got your telescope right there. But I digress. So this is gonna have lies, like I'm gonna start off at the first paragraph. Planet Earth moves around the sun, making a complete revolution in a time period which we know as a year. Now, revolution is 360 degrees, so to move in a circle, right? Which revolution in this case differs from that of like sedition, where people riot and protest, and overthrow government, that type of revolution. I mean, sure, you may see some parallels like with Napoleon. What's it called? How he led a revolution against the old, government, wanted to end up full circle. So France never really was free from, their oppression. Is that a chariot? You can't see it. Either that's a satellite. Oh my God. You see that? That's either a satellite or a chariot. That's a freaking chariot. God damn, dude. That is lit. I'm not gonna lie. Dude. And it's not even a bright sky. You got pollution. Like, you could tell it's pollution because not only are we in an urban environment, but, when I was up in the Klamath Mountains, the sky was literally pitch black, like jet black. It don't look jet black. It kind of looked like a dark navy blue with a darker hue. And you could tell it's not completely dark because where's the Milky Way strand? I forget what the arm ESA scientist calls it. You got that big brown strand full of gas and stars and whatnot. You can't see it because of the pollution, but I digress. Planet Earth moves around the sun, making a complete revolution in a time period which we know as a year. Which revolution means to move in a circle. This is a lie, right? Which I think it was Copernicus or Kepler. Not Kepler. Was Brock's assistant, or Brahe's assistant, not Brock. Tycho Brahe, right? His name. No, I'm thinking it was Nicholas Copernicus. Yeah, Nicholas Copernicus. Yeah, because it was on his deathbed when he made the mention how, because he had connection, he had ties to the Christian church at the time, and he knew what happened to people who rebelled against him. They get killed, capital punishment. So he was afraid, and it wasn't until on his deathbed he what's it called made mentions of his books, and those are published around the world, and making excruciating claims about really it being a heliocentric model. Helio meaning sun, pertaining to the sun. Centric center, right? Pertaining to the sun. Heliocentric model is where the solar system is with the sun at its center and the planets orbit around it. But before Copernicus, the ancients, right? Like with Aristotle, all right, the ancient Israelites, our forefathers, which, yeah, even our forefathers, to all of them, what's it called? Flat Earth Israelites, man. Those are bogus claims talking about, what's it called? The Earth is flat. And you got some Jake out there talking about oh yeah, planets are real. The planets are real. But I don't think the Earth is flat. I don't think the Earth is real. I think the Earth is flat, even though we know planets are real. Like, make that make sense. That's just not possible. That is not possible. And you got some far-fetched ass, what's it called? Instagram lights, if you will. Talking about some behind the ice wall. It's because of that. I forget who created that photo, where it's an image with the continents of the known world, and then you got the ice wall, and then outside of it, there's like other islands, like the moving island, and whatever. This is freaking bullshit, right? So we know the Earth is a globe, and what's it called? There's various points to prove that. An example could be stars. So we'll look at the stars right now. What you're seeing here is what's known as a planisphere or a star locator. So these are all stars. I don't think it shows planets. Planets actually goes back to the Greek word planetes, meaning wandering star, because they wandered like Venus. It drifts to and fro. As a matter of fact, I think it makes a mention right there. I'll look into it right now, but different stars, and it's got, what's it called, your four corners. Your coordinate thing, or not coordinates, your direction things: north, west, south, east. Nagasaki waffles. Right now I'm facing the south. This is the south, and what you got is that it goes by time. So 1, 2 in the morning all the way to 12, or that's 12 a.m., 11, 10 p.m. Right? You find the day you're on, and you place it. So right now it's like 7, right? February 18, 7 p.m. These are the stars that we see. We got the Orion constellation. You could barely see it. That's the Orion constellation. So you got the belt, Orion's belt, and then I think it's on, this side where you got the bow. That's where you're looking at. Which the scriptures talk about the constellations, right? They actually mention the constellations. I think that was also in the book of Job, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Where it goes into Orion, right? Which in the Hebrew it goes by different names, but we're using the anglicized modern names. I digress. Time period. Yeah, so really it's a geocentric model. The ancients, like Aristotle, all those old heads, and even our forefathers, we all knew it was geocentric. Time after Genesis 1, I believe it was 14 or so, made the mention how, and this is right like well after the earth was already formed, right? Or not formed entirely, so like, because it happened in various days, right? I think it was day 3, however, when you had what's it called, land and grass appear. Correct me if I'm wrong. And day 4 is where you had the lights, right? Which each day is not talking about a little freaking day. You know, they talking about no 24-hour period, right? Because keep in mind, when let's just go into how the dividing of day and night. Well, what's it called? You know, what's it called? Before that, it was the first 1,000 years. What's it called? First 1,000 years, which was let there be light. And light refers to illumination, the combining of the elements to create illumination. And that was the first day. It really means 1,000 years. You know, because before day and night, how would you have a 24-hour period? You wouldn't. So really, that first day was 1,000 years, and that ties back to 2 Peter 3:8, where it goes into how, you know ye that what's it called? A day in the Lord's eyes is but 1,000 years, and 1,000 years, what's it called? To the Lord's a day. Slack, let me rephrase that. One day to the Lord's 1,000 years here, right? 1,000 years is one day, right? So you know, it's no wonder as to why when you read the epistles, it talks about in the last days. Motherfucker, it's been the last days. Really, it's been like 2 days. 2 days since the Lord's crucifixion. Right? Talking about some that made no sense. You know, it's been 2,000 years. That's more than a few days. Even you shouldn't say the last day. You should say 2,000 years instead. What's it called? Again, we deal with code words, some jargon for you, right? Mysteries, cryptic. We speak in cryptic. Now, obviously, we try and keep it simple. That's a part of the culture, but it ends up being cryptic, right? What's it called? Riddles. You got Samson speak riddles. Samson was speaking riddles, man. Jeez. You know, how about that? So really, the last days refers to 2,000 years. Because this has been, what's it called? 2 days in the Lord's eyes. You know, it's a measurement of time. Right? I remember the other apostle around was going into how he did like some division he was going into. All right, I'm gonna continue on. So really, it's really the earth there. So like I was going back to Genesis 1:14, right? So we know that the earth was already there before the lights, before the sun, before the moon, before the stars. Right? They were created, what's it called, after, before, if I'm mistaken. Right? What's it called? To provide light. So, you know, really, it's the earth, and then the sun, and then the moon, and then all the other planets, right? So it's not a star system, it's a planet system, right? In this case, all the time it is orbiting around the sun, all the way around actually. The earth is rotating on its axis, making one translated period, which is known as a day. It is a daily rotation of the earth, which gives us night and day. All right, which we know that's what's it called? The rotation is not what makes it night and day. All right, because you know, Earth was already there before the sun. The whole system of time is based on one rotation of the earth. Right now, I made the mention, rotating on its axis. I'm gonna keep my peace right there. I think I can make the mention how it's fixed as it doesn't move. But if it does move, then there's that, and it would prove I forget what you call it, like a pendulum. Like a swinging thing. I know they had at the Griffith Observatory. It was like a big circle near the entrance, and you got a ball connected to a rope connected to the ceiling, and it moves in a straight line, but it ends up knocking some pedals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One pedal, 2 pedals, but it's all moving in a straight line because of Earth movement. Unless that's not true. But that model experiment's been around for centuries now. So I'll keep my peace on that one. But the ecliptic in its yearly journey around the sun, the earth is passing among the stars. Now you read other definitions, it's gonna sound like it's really the sun and the stars moving around the earth, right? And why is because historically speaking, before Copernicus' claims about it being a heliocentric theory, a heliocentric model actually, that's what we all believed. And biblically speaking, it is true. It is true. You know, what's it called? What's it called? Sun, moon, stars, they move around us, not the other way around. So right here it says the earth traces a path, meaning it's the one following a path. And as it follows a path, you got various stars that appear. What's it called? Whatnot. What's it called? That's not true. Really, it's the opposite. The earth is right there, pointed, and the ecliptic goes around it east to west, right? East to west, northeast, east to west. And that's actually what's happening. Again, I'm facing the south, right? What's it called? I'm facing the south. The Orion's constellation, M42. Did you see it move? It moved. You can't freaking see. Goddamn freaking focus out here, you know, bullcrapping. The stars were over here, and now they're over here. Why? Because, again, I'm facing the south. This is south, north, east, west. It's slowly moving westward. And what this we just talked about, hey, the earth, the sun in its circuits moves from east to west. You know, also you got the other switches where it goes into how, you know, from the rising of the sun in the east to the what's it called, falling down at the west. Really paraphrasing. Freaking focus. So the ecliptic is the sun and star, moon, which orbit us. Or actually, I wouldn't say the moon, because the moon, I think it follows a different trajectory, though they all orbit us. And that's where you get your lunar eclipses. Actually, yeah, because the stars are moving this way, but the moon was over there, and it's going this way. It's a different rotation. Right, so this is the ecliptic. You soon get to know the various constellations through which the ecliptic passes. Blah blah. I made them mention how wandering stars, you know, they wander different from normal stars. I'm gonna jump down. It makes them mention how, except Venus, may now and then stray a little outside of the zone, right? You know, that be moving around. Yeah, some illustrations. You know, so far it's a good book if you are able to separate the bones from the meat. But now I'm gonna adjust the laser thing to actually hit M42. So Orion constellation is right above me, which the Orion belt, those three stars right there, that diagonal line, that's the Orion's belt. That star is actually the zenith. The zenith is like something above you. So when you play like The Sims, you get little characters, and right above the character's head is like a green gem, floating green gem that spirals around. That's what's it called? You could use that as an analogy to refer to the zenith. So the zenith is the point above my head, above the camera lens, so all the way up there, straight at the zenith. So the zenith of the Orion's belt is actually the zenith of the equator. So we're looking at people from the equator. I'm in North America, but for people from the equator, we're looking at the same stars up there, that being the Orion's belt. Now I'm going to adjust it a bit as to M42, which pursuant to this planisphere, M42, Messer 42, and it's known as M because you got various catalog systems to be able to document stars. And I think his name is Charles Messer, who in France, above a hotel, was, you know, he was a comet seeker. He was looking for comets. He ended up finding various stars and documenting them. M something as to, what's it called, not look for them. You know, he was like, oh, it's a waste of time. Andromeda Galaxy, I'll just mark it. It's not what I'm looking for. We were looking for comets. So I'm gonna look for what's it called? Orion Nebula. That's the constellation. That's the constellation. You got Orion Nebula over there. M42, Orion Nebula. And as you see right there, you got your little red dot. Should have turned it off beforehand. I'm freaking look for it. Yeah, it moved. I gotta adjust it because this guy moves every 4 minutes. I'm mistaken. So let me just look for it. So it's sort of faint. Again, I'm in an urban environment with light pollution, and I'm using a 10mm lens. So it's gonna be kind of faint. You can't see jack. Flip. Can this thing focus? Okay. Yeah, can't see jack. I'll switch it to 25mm if I can't see anything. You could see some stars, right? It's not good. Okay, so you could look at it better now with my 25mm. It's blurry as hell, but you could see like a little smudge right there. That's the Orion Nebula. And I lost it. Right. Hell. Right there. But you got your flat earthers talking about that just looks like a reflection from the dome. What reflection? You know, it's night sky. Nothing to reflect off of. Unlike with the moon, where your lunar eclipse is. More so, this is the Orion Nebula. You get a smart telescope and you face it right there. It's gonna absorb the light in like 10 minutes or whatever. So depending on the time, it's gonna get a clearer image. You could actually look it up on the internet. I've seen it like a green, reddish color, whitish color, with a different lens. But you can't see it with the naked eye unless you use a lens because of the absorption of light. There it is. You can see it better now. And this model is actually a Newtonian model, right? Some science behind it. You can look it up on YouTube. But yeah, I just want to do a quick lesson on that. A little mini lesson on astronomy and looking up at the stars. And you know, as we know in the kingdom, we'll be able to see them here better. You know, in person, because you know, with flight abilities and chariots, be able to, you know, see it up close. And actually, as a matter of fact, that's Jupiter up there. Jupiter, baby. Which, you know, you could actually see it faint with these other lenses. You could see the 4 moons as well, and you could see you could see the lines, the streaks that it has, the little streaks. And you could actually see the color. But you need a better lens. I've heard 4mm, 6mm are good to see it. You know, but there's that. What's it called? But yeah, just astronomy. Hey, to know the times like Issachar, right? The trash car out here knowing the times, and you do know the times because there's science behind it with the vernal equinoxes. You know, equinoxes. Vernal equinox is one of the equinoxes, and you got your solstices and whatnot. The position of the sun, right? Hey, the sun, moon, they serve purposes. You got what's they call your stars. You got your comets, like shooting stars and whatnot. You know, like the Halley's Comet from '89 or whatever. When it was last time it was visible back in the '80s. Yeah, your various shooting stars. You got satellites up here though. You got chariots too, and some are invisible. You can't see them. I know they're there. You know, but just want to do a lesson on that. What it was edifying. For the next one, I say shalom.